So now we have some sessions on practice strategy. You don't want to miss the talk by Ana Delgado, who's the founder of the International Academy of Facial Aesthetics. She's going to share some tips and success strategies for your practices. I learned so much from her talk last year, and I know I'll get a lot out of it this year.
Hello everyone, my name is Ana Delgado, founder of the International Academy of Facial Aesthetics. I'm honored to be a part of this meeting and want to take a moment to thank Dr. Kian Karimi for all of his efforts for having us here today despite circumstances. Thank you so much. These talks are brief, so I want to jump right in, and a quick note that I have nothing to disclose. The power of now. For over a decade, I've had the opportunity to work with aesthetic providers from all corners of the country, and I find that the ones that are most successful have adapted to the concept of now. So we should ask, are we using the best tools, but more importantly, are we adapting to how they change? We all understand the power of social media, and most of us have made that leap to having it, but are we being strategic? With the average attention span of humans in 2019 being 8 seconds, 1 second less than that of a goldfish, I believe we all can agree that speed is truly the name of the digital marketing game. Let's talk about the featured snippet. I love how a recent blog stated this. They said, "It looks like we're now in the middle of a featured snippageddon that SEO astrologers predicted more than 3 years ago." So what is this exactly? A featured snippet, otherwise known as an answer box, is a brief answer to a user's search query, which is displayed on top of a Google search result, and it's extracted from one of the top ranking pages of that search query and does include the page's URL and title. This is a relatively recent addition, and these featured snippets are important because they're giving marketing professionals the new ability to help these lower ranking websites the ability to have more visibility, and virtually with zero effort. A recent study of about 2 million of these featured snippets showed that they actually can steal up to 8.6 of the clicks from the first search result, which is considerable, quite a bit, because without it, that first position would get about 26%. So let's take a look here at an example of what this looks like. Here you see I asked Google, let me go back here, what to do with Botox bruising. Questions are very popular on Google, guys, and so Google is no longer being used as just a search engine, right? So it's part of our daily lives for trusted information, and it's accessible, right, with our fingertips, and better yet now with our voice. The all-knowing Google constantly tracks movement on the net, and it knows that you want that information now. And the recent addition of these featured snippets and something called People also ask, as you can see here on the right-hand corner, truly are providing researchers quicker, are providing searchers quicker ways to retrieve information. So as you can see here, by me putting what to do with Botox bruising, in 64 seconds, I have over 1 million results. And the best part is that the amount of effort required to get featured is virtually zero. So one thing that is key to consider here is that these snippets are also the ones that are being used by Google, spoken by Google Assistant. How can I help? So we are using that more and more. So that is the importance to take into account here. Your website speed directly affects your marketing and patient accusations. So you're going to notice that this is going to become even more of a role play, especially as you integrate these snippets, right? So let's look at 3 main components. First, you need to understand where your online presence stands, and if you're interested in that, you can use this tool here by using that link. But then you have to really understand what content, or do you have the content that is truly ideal for your patient? A recent study by Doctor.com found that 3 out of 5 patients will choose one practice over another due to strong online presence, the content that is relevant for them, making it kind of crucial for our decision-making process. So Very critical. And then we want to look at also that you have the proper tools on that website to allow for conversions, such as bots, etc. So truly an open flow of communication is important beyond your website, right? So it extends to feeling connected. It's not just you should be able to immediately contact at practice, right? So SMS responses instead of voicemails. You should also, what's very important, what I see being done more and more by successful providers, is the ability to have that open flow of communication also on social media. So the reality is, guys, we no longer really use voicemails as much, right? And when we call somebody and they don't answer, we usually text them. So it's so important these days to have some sort of way for when your practice is closed, or when simply they're busy, they can't answer, that that patient receives a text from the practice so that they're feeling connected and you don't lose the sale, right? So another way that you can keep the open flow of communication is whether it is an assistant or the provider themselves, is to have that open flow through DM, through Facebook Messenger, and even on the comments page. If you have a successful social media platform, you're going to see that you get a lot of patients asking questions, especially if you're putting out the right materials, such as Dr. Kian Karimi did here with this great PDO post here. He did a nice video where somebody was asking him how often does this need to get done. He responded. Here's another example of a great video on rhinoplasty. In this case, the potential client wanted to reach the office, but he said, "Are you guys open right now? Because I'm calling and no one picks up." So luckily, Dr. Karimi was able to quickly tell him, "Hey, DM us and we'll get back to you right away." This is an opportunity this is an instance where SMS could have also saved us from losing this potential client. So we are living in the social media age of authenticity, right? Don't worry so much about videos being perfect, because grainy and not so thought out videos can sometimes come off more authentic. So how can we be authentic? Stories create authenticity, and even your hashtags and the order and how they are can play a role in that. Video reviews are critical, guys. Google loves reviews. And it's important to realize that video is 50 times more likely to get organic page ranks, right? 96% of the people have watched an explainer video. There's people that don't even know how to use a computer, but yet they're utilizing, like my aunt, she recently was like, "I'm watching a video on how to use an air fryer." Well, these people that can't even use an iPad or a computer, but they're relying on these videos for information. So this is critical. 72% of people prefer watching videos over reading text when receiving branded information. So we are in the era of videos, guys. Before, it used to be that if you didn't have a mobile, and this was about 5-6 years ago, if you guys remember, if you didn't have a mobile-friendly site, you would suffer. And then actually, Google warned that they preferred it, and then a year later they made it something where you would suffer. So now we're starting to get into that where Google is giving those hints and saying, we prefer when videos are being used. I would estimate that in about 6 months to a year, providers that are not using videos are going to also see a little bit of suffer happen in their optimization. So you see here, we retain about 95% of what we see on videos versus only 10%. And part of that is because of the emotional connection that we are able to make with these videos, right? So if you don't have a YouTube account, you need to create one ASAP, because this is owned by Google, and we know that Google still owns 94% of the share of the worldwide searches. So this is key. So you need to think about what kind of content you want to have on there. So has your provider ever created a video to communicate and educate to patients? Have you ever asked a patient to do a 30-second video testimonials? Don't forget that these videos truly help with your website's search optimization. Google is more concerned about quality and not quantity of reviews, okay? And I actually was very glad to see that a lot of providers that had never made a video before decided to create one during COVID, which was a time where patients were really looking for a trustworthy source of information. So that's great. So if that was your leap into video making, continue on that road. So let's talk about why video makes it better. And I think these statistics speak for themselves. Social media generates 12 more shares than text and image combined would. Video posts on Facebook have 135% greater organic reach than photo posts. And even more mind-boggling is Facebook generates 8 billion video views on average per day. We are addicted to this, guys. We are online constantly. Let's utilize this to truly capitalize on it and get ourselves having some good strategy when it comes to video. So. And they say that social media is where you would house more fun, lighthearted messaging, and Google would be more of a targeted. However, I want to note something that is fairly new is that search optimization is changing. Google is still preferred a method of search for how we search things, but it used to be where we used to use platforms like Instagram for discovery and Google for commerce, purchasing. The trend has been switching and overlapping over the years, and now Instagram is being more heavily used for commerce, and we're seeing that Google is more so being utilized as a discovery engine. And a good example of that is this Olay case study, where they used to heavily rely on these sell ads on Google, and they saw a significant drop in their sales, and they switched this dark circles under the eyes campaign to being more so educational, and they just saw their ROI go through the roof. So these are some things to consider. I want to quickly, with the few minutes left that I have here, go over neuromarketing. Neuromarketing is something that big companies and universities have used for a long time, but it's something that more and more aesthetic practices are also using. And I encourage you to find out or to integrate some of these neuromarketing ways into your practice, because it truly can make a difference. So let's go into it. Like, for example, Hyundai literally created the whole external exterior of their car using neuroscience, and it ended up being one of their top selling vehicles, right? We have the Frito-Lay, I don't know if you saw the commercial, where they had one of their most groundbreaking, most sales, and it even won an award. And it was conducted, instead of with focus groups, they did it with neuroscience, which is with EEG tests. And it was the minds of what the people really are thinking versus saying. So if you didn't see it, it's basically where a woman puts Cheetos in a laundry full of white clothes. And, people in focus groups would say, no, that's so mean-spirited. But really, it was really very much loved by the audience. So let's talk about, these are a lot of companies, all the top main companies that are using neuromarketing. But how can you apply it? Well, you can apply it through your marketing and promotions, through metaphor interviews, through websites. Let's talk a little bit about that. Just make sure that your marketing and promotions don't cause people to want to walk away and lose the sale, decision paralysis. Make sure that your marketing and promotions have a concept called framing, which is, you don't want to just inform, but you constantly want to have closing strategies. And when it comes to metaphor interviews, we think in words. We don't think in words, we think in images. So think about what you can do in terms of making sure that you have that you're making the right decisions with real information. So it can easily be done inexpensively with some of your longest time patients, the ones that spend the most money at your practice. So things like asking them, well, when I say minimally invasive fat reduction, what comes to mind, right? So so getting that insight is critical. There's an example of a practice, that a med spa physical therapy practice that bought an MSculpt machine, and they were just having terrible luck with it. They weren't having any sales come through, and all it was shifting how that was marketed, because obviously most of the people that came to the audience with athletes, and so the get abs didn't really resonate with them. So they did some of this metaphor interviews, and they quickly changed their promotions to help strengthen your core, enhancing your athletic performance, and they quickly were able to get a ton more sales within just a 3-month spectrum. So website analysis. So even more affordable use of neuroscience is this concept of being able to use these software apps to record your patient's activity on your website at home. So screenshot videos of the reaction of your readers are key because it allows you to watch the interaction between the users and the website itself. So using these tracking softwares, you can fix areas of negative behavior, which include things like U-turns. And as you can see, this man here is having a rage. So people can actually be having rage clicks on your website because they're frustrated. And so these are things that can easily be fixed, whether it's something's just not loading or it's not giving the reader the content it wants. So you can easily fix those things with some of these neuroscience software technologies. Thank you. That's it for today. I'm listing 3 companies below who I consider extremely innovative and helpful in the realm of marketing for healthcare providers. I'm happy to connect you with any of them directly. Thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.